Everybody knows about type immunities. Fairy is immune to dragon, ground is immune to electric, etc. But what if I told you that some types have additional immunities to things other than opposing types? Some of these are obvious, but some of these are things that even more experienced players may not have realized. Let's get into these seldom discussed passive properties and immunities of different types. There are three categories of special type-dependent passives: status immunities, weather effects, and unique effects. Starting off simple are the status immunities. These are all fairly obvious. Fire is immune to burn, electric is immune to paralysis, ice is immune to freeze, and poison and steel are immune to poison and toxic. Interestingly, steel types aren't immune to poison just because of the type immunity. Normalized Delcatty, which can paralyze ground types with its normal type Thunderwave, cannot poison steel types with normal type Toxic. It's also worth knowing that terrestrializing into the Stellar type does not change any of these status immunities, nor the following properties that I'm going to discuss. Now onto the weather-dependent passives. There are two subcategories, both of which are well known: chip damage immunity and defense boosts. Regarding the chip damage immunities, steel, ground, and rock types are immune to sandstorm damage, while only ice types were immune to the now defunct hail damage. As for defense boosts, rock types received a 50% boost to special defense in sand, and ice types received a 50% boost to defense in snow. Keep in mind that ice types did not receive this boost prior to Gen 9, back when snow was hail. Okay, now that we've covered the basics, let's get into the more interesting stuff. For this part, I'm going to go type by type. Firstly, as of Generation 7 onwards, Dark types are immune to Prankster boosted status moves. Any Prankster move that targets an enemy will fail when used on a Dark type. This means if you switch a Honchkrow into Sableye, you don't have to worry about getting burned or paralyzed. Interestingly, this also includes moves that call other moves, such as Metronome. So if a Pokemon with Prankster uses Metronome and calls a regular attack, that attack will not affect any Dark-type Pokemon due to Metronome being a status move. This nuance gives Dark types an interesting layer of defensive utility. Next up is Ghost types. As of Generation 6, Ghost types are immune to all trapping effects. This includes abilities like Arena Trap and Magnapult, as well as moves like Whirlpool and Meatlook. This change made Pursuit trapping all the more important, and now that Pursuit is gone, there's no way to reliably remove Ghost types. They can always switch out without fear of taking huge damage, which makes things like Boots Dragapult very difficult to wear down over the course of a game. There's also a boon for Giratina, and nearly unanimous members of Uber's UU stall teams. Traveling is so threatening to stall monsters that they often run Shed Shell just to avoid it, but Giratina doesn't have to worry about this. This advantage is just another point in favor of the incredibly strong type that Ghost is. The next type I'll be discussing is Grass. Grass has two special immunities, Leech Seed and Powder. Leech Seed is pretty straightforward. It fails when used against grass types, and is a good bit of counterplay to obnoxious sub-seed sets. The Powder immunity is more nuanced. Not only does this give grass types an effective immunity to reliable sleep moves, but also extends to things like Effect Spore and Rage Powder. Most physical attackers have to be wary of being afflicted by a random status when attacking Effect Spore users, but not grass types. Rage Powder is the most interesting immunity here. Redirection is a hugely important facet of VGC, so being able to ignore Rage Powder without having to run safety goggles is a big advantage. This immunity is part of the reason the Overlord of VGC, Incineroar, often runs Grass as its Terra type. Overall, this set of immunities provides an otherwise fragile type with some unique defensive properties. Now for the Flying type. Flying type, along with its Levitate users, are immune to grounded effects, and there are 4 grounded effects to cover. First is grounded hazards. These are Spikes, Toxic Spikes, and Sticky Web. The Spike immunity was so important in Gen 3 that there was an entire team style called Superman, based around using only ungrounded Pokemon in order to avoid spikes. Second is Arena Trap, meaning that only grounded Pokemon can get trapped. Third is Terrain Effects, which has a lot of consequences. Firstly, Flying types cannot make use of moves that are boosted by terrain, so no Priority Grassy Glide or Powerful Expanding Force. Secondly, the passive effects of terrain do not apply to ungrounded Pokemon, meaning that they can get slapped in electric terrain or hit by priority moves in psychic terrain. One caveat to this is that ungrounded Pokemon will still use terrain seed items. Finally, ungrounded Pokemon do not receive the boost provided by Rototiller. Overall, Flying types and Levitate users have probably the most detailed set of effects. The penultimate type that I'll cover is Poison, which has a couple of special properties, neither of which are immunities. The first is the ability of grounded Poison types to automatically absorb Toxic Spikes when switched in. Being able to remove a powerful entry hazard just by showing up is pretty powerful, and is a big reason why grounded Poison types are an important box to check off when building a draft team. The second special property is that Poison types bypass the accuracy check when using Toxic. And when I say bypass the accuracy check, I don't mean it's 100% accurate. It can't be avoided. What? Even if the target is in a semi-invulnerable state, such as those using Fly or Dig, they still get hit. Notably, Poison is the only type to have this kind of interaction with its corresponding status effect, and this property is specific to the move Toxic. These properties make an already defensively good poison type all the more important. Finally, we have ice types, which have one more special interaction beyond what I've mentioned thus far. Ice types are immune to sheer cold, which makes sense. If you want to destroy an ice cube, you wouldn't put it in a freezer. Additionally, ice types are 10% more likely to land sheer cold than other types, as detailed by the formula for the move. And with that, we've covered all secondary type-based immunities and properties. Here's a table summarizing everything for your convenience. To my knowledge, this is all of them, but compiling a comprehensive list is a bit tough since there isn't exactly a category for this kind of thing. Please consider subscribing, as it helps me get closer to being able to make $10 a year off of this channel. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you learned something, even if it's fringe knowledge. Take care, and I'll see you next time.